Well, hi there and welcome to Home Wizards. I'm Cindy Dole.
Hey, I'm Eric Stromer.
And we love to improve your home and improve your life. And now that, summer is virtually here, I'm thinking, you want to sit outside. You have to sit on something. You have to have some kind of furniture.
Yeah, you definitely want to have some lovely furniture that's comfortable, cozy, and most importantly, clean of all the debris from the season before, right?
The leaves and the dust.
That's
like if you had a big, gust of wind and all of a sudden you've got little pollen on your
That's right.
pillows.
And then you sit down in those beautiful white pants that you're trying to rock at the cocktail party, and guess what? You've got a wrought iron pattern on your backside.
Or maybe kind of a dusting of green and yellow. Ooh.
No good.
Well, so what kind of furniture do you have at your place?
Well, I have a sort of a cornucopia of different styles. I've got some wrought iron because my parents downsized, so they gave me some of their stuff, and then I've got some terrible plastic stuff that just I can't stand. Mm-hmm. I find that to be very difficult to keep clean, and it breaks and gets brittle in the sun. I don't like the plastic stuff. And then I've got some good wood Adirondack chairs that I think are fantastic and weather the storm pretty well. So, basically I pretty much have, I'm your test group. I've got everything. I can speak to all these things in terms of care.
We have teak type.
Why do you always got one up?
No,
you got a one up.
It's the same as like your wood Adirondack.
Yeah, it's just the hardest wood there is known to man.
It's just a little different.
That's all.
So let's talk about shopping for patio furniture because, it is that time of year when maybe you're thinking the stuff I have needs a little upgrade.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And of course, you could always paint what you had. You don't have to all buy new, right? I mean,
that's true, and especially with the old wrought iron stuff or the metal stuff that you might have had from some years back. If it doesn't look great, you can always just spray paint it with some primer and then a finish coat of gloss. It looks great, brand new, and I think it really gives it a nice facelift.
And it'll cover the rust too.
Yes,
right?
Yeah. A little steel wool to get that rust off, smooth it down, and then primer over that, and then go ahead and do paint.
So let's say if you were going to buy wrought iron right now, right? Yeah. It is kind of that classic look, it's very sturdy, right?
Sure.
It isn't always durable, but
it isn't always as comfortable as you'd like either.
Well, you might not have some little pillows on it or something.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is that classic look. So if you are in the market to shop for some wrought iron furniture, I guess the key is to make sure that it's coated.
Yeah, you definitely want to make sure it's UV coated or powder coated. The UV finishes, the resistant finishes are fantastic because without them, they're really impervious to having the coating get degraded by really intense sun, right?
Uh-huh.
And then you throw a couple of coats of winter over it, and then within a few years, all the finish is pretty much gone. So you definitely want to make sure that you've got the UV resistant coating.
And in terms of making sure that you extend the life of the wrought iron furniture, probably not a good idea to keep it outside all year too, right?
No, you want to definitely either cover it or bring it in. If you're in a winter climate, it's best to bring it in because what happens is those extreme variances in temperature start to degrade the place where the weld points are, where they adhere each of those angles together. So without doing the intense heat, cold, it'll be much better in terms of the lifespan of the piece of wrought iron furniture.
So here's the thing: if you don't have space you say bring it on in. Well, you don't want. I mean, where are you going to put it? So if you don't have storage, maybe you just say you nix wrought iron as your shopping
That might be a good idea, but and it's also heavy. So if you're not somebody that can easily move a very, very heavy chair or table, that may not be the best choice. Yeah.
So you have to think, okay, do I have the space to move it in the bad weather to some other location?
Right.
Or do I want it just sitting there staring at me all year long with like a tablecloth over it? It's going to maybe feel cluttery. So that's something to keep in mind.
And then the other thing, too, is that, with uneven patio surfaces like some kind of a stone or where there's a ton of grout joints or even grass, the wrought iron has a tendency. The good news with it is that it is heavy enough so it's not going to rock quite as easily. Mm-hmm. The bad news is if it is sort of unlevel, the rock is really pronounced. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Like like in think about a restaurant table. It's that feeling where one leg is a little bit lower, and it's difficult to kind of get it to flex to the surface it's sitting on, whereas the plastic stuff or the wood stuff will kind of give and not be quite as, it'll be a little more forgiving in terms of that feeling.
So another choice is aluminum, right? There's a lot of the metal patio furniture that you are sitting on in restaurants, right?
Right.
It's made of that aluminum because it's lighter and it doesn't rust. And it's easier to maintain, and a lot of times it has kind of those built-in, little comfier slings for your rump and for your back.
Yeah, that's true. Now, the bad news with aluminum is that it's definitely a little more flimsy. It's not going to be quite as durable and structurally. So you may want to think about that too. If you're buying for the long haul and you fit the criteria for, the wrought iron, that would definitely, I think, win out over the aluminum. The aluminum tends to be a little more contemporary styling because it's thinner tines and it makes it look a little more angular and stuff, whereas the wrought iron can be a little more traditional looking. So.
However, if you had, let's say, a little patio, a condo apartment area with a little decking, and you had to keep it outside all year long, I mean, this is rust-proof.
That's true.
So,
it absolutely is.
So it's not as sturdy or durable, but, how about...
And let me just say one thing. You definitely want to look for seamless welds. So what that means is that you can see sometimes when the two corners come together, there's like a big, almost looks like chewing gum, area where it's been spot welded together. So it's not as structurally sound. So you want the seamless looking weld. So keep that in mind.
So now you're not a fan of plastic. I'm not either. There are, however, some really cool recycled plastic and polymer options. So it's kind of like this marine grade made out of all different things, like from milk jugs to you name it. But that's really good, like for a beach climate. If you have kind of a lake or beach side place where you're going to for the summer, that's going to be good. For that kind of durability, it'll have less likelihood of fading, right?
Right. Now, if you do the really inexpensive plastic that it feels sort of rigid, it's definitely going to crack on you over about 2 or 3 seasons. And also the UV stuff, the sun that hits, it'll definitely make it worse and worse and worse.
And my favorite, I think yours too, is wood. And just make sure you know what kind of wood you're getting to make sure it doesn't split, right? And rot and crack.
Yeah.
And the denser kinds like teak. Or eucalyptus.
Well, teak is amazing, or even the redwood stuff's is fare way better than any other kind of wood.
And if you want teak at half the price, by the way, there's something called Shoria wood. Have you heard of that?
No.
Yeah, and apparently it's similar in quality. Look for that. It's SHOREA.
So it's half the price point.
Half the price, and it's just the same durability. You're listening to Home Wizards, where we love to improve your home and your life.